The approach here will be, I'll fast track. I'm not going to do the way I do it in my foundation classes, where a lot of explanations, a lot of stories, a lot of illustrations, examples are there. But in this course, I want to focus on the following approach. And sometimes, please understand, the theme we identify that you are familiar with in other areas also, maybe this is the approach you have followed in other areas also. But here by theme, I mean, please understand, theme is not a topic. I'm not going to pick up, say, labor participation rate or caste census and subcategorization. It's not a theme. It's a one-off topic that appeared in the newspaper. What I discuss is a broad theme. And these themes I have designed on the basis of the past year papers, of course. And broadly, I'll give you a list of the themes that we are going to discuss in our next 10 to 12 lectures. 2 to 3 lectures, definitely I'm going to extend. And in all of these themes, once I identified, and I'll show you how many questions appear. For example, the first very theme that I'm going to discuss is a very large theme. 22 questions in the last 10 years have appeared from this theme alone. Okay. And this is the reason I've also given you a document. 2 documents I've uploaded on ELEARN. I hope it is uploaded. Is it uploaded? Alok? 2 documents. Yes or no, people? Is it uploaded or not?
Sir, just checking and we'll let you know.
No, sir,
Yeah.
it's not uploaded.
Not uploaded?
No, sir.
1 second. Let me see what. Okay, I'll show you the document anyway. Okay, I'll make use of the document. Every day I will try to upload few documents, and none of them are for you to read and mug up or memorize. We are not going to memorize at all. Okay, the idea is not to keep giving you material and for you to go and repeat the same thing or reproduce in the paper. That is not going to happen, because anyway the paper is not, none of our notes is going to be reproducible in the answers for sure. Okay, so we need to get out of that framework for sure. So what I will do is, this theme alone has around 22 questions. The first theme I'm going to start with. I'm not going to list out all the themes that I'm discussing in the course. Very briefly, I will just tell you, but we will pick up the themes as we go forward. So 10 to 12 lectures I will definitely need as of my preliminary plan. But one thing I can guarantee. So what we'll do is, the approach is the following. We'll identify a theme and I'll show you the PYQs. I'll develop a framework for you to think in that theme. And sometimes the framework can be very elaborate. Some frameworks may take 2 lectures. Some frameworks may take 1 lecture. Okay. Some frameworks, the first framework, of course, most probably in 1 lecture, I'll try to cover the framework. That is the idea. And as soon as I cover the framework, this framework is for you to think in that theme. And to demonstrate that, you can attempt your PYQs. What I will do after discussing the framework is the most important component of the discussions. But questions will appear from these. Once the framework is discussed, to enable you to think in a theme, I'll give you an example of a theme. We start, the first theme that we are going to discuss is continuity and change in Indian society, from tradition to modern times. This is the theme. 22 questions in the last 10 years on this theme alone. Words are different, question is same. If you prepare this framework, you will be able to attempt all 22 questions. More than 15, you will be able to write answers, complete answers, maybe another 5 to 6. we may have to do few more themes or few more frameworks in order to complete that answer. But continuity and change, the characteristic feature of Indian society, is a theme that is repeated across the years. 22 I can point out. Once we discuss the framework, we'll identify the contemporary debates, relevant debates based on those themes, and this is where you can expect a question. Although question can be anything. I don't know what question is going to be asked. But regardless of whatever is going to be asked, if you're familiar with the framework, you will be able to attempt the question. That's the idea. And therefore, the idea is not to mug up that framework, nothing. Just for you to think in that theme, nothing else. Okay, don't mug up. If you have to, okay, memorize something, it's only the frameworks you have to memorize, nothing else. That's the idea. Then we'll pick up some contemporary debates, which is there in news, not only this year, last 4 years, 5 years, what will be there in the next 2 to 3 years or 5 years also. Okay, so so QIP is not going to be list of news items and then I will start discussing one by one factually. There is no use doing that. We'll look at the questions, we'll realize it. Once we discuss few things and once I identify some debates and you know how to approach those answers, we will try to answer some questions. Couple of answers. I have not written any answers as of now to be discussed in the class. I'll attempt to write in front of you. I don't know whether time will permit. So the last part, I will try to answer a couple of questions and I've given you a list of questions that you should be able to attempt in the class. So what I will do is first 2 hours. हाँ अभी तो सोसाइटी है, साइंस एंड टेक हो गया. साइंस एंड टेक आई डू स्टिल इन माय फाउंडेशन कोर्स, बट ठीक है, सोसाइटी इज लिटिल मोर interesting. So what we'll do, okay, is first 2 hours I will focus for people who are writing mains and who feel okay, you're hard pressed for time. Okay, for you, I'm telling you, first 2 hours we'll discuss only framework. After that, if you want to leave and do your own practice, you may do that, or others also. Actually, people who are writing mains, I would suggest we'll extend the class by half an hour or 45 minutes. After 2 hours, after I've discussed the framework, we will write answers. I will write a couple of answers, or at least tell you a couple of answers as I am thinking. I don't know what is the answer going to be. I have not prepared the answer as of now deliberately, so that I can show you. I can go wrong with all of this understanding also, but also with this understanding, I'll be able to frame it. Both is possible. Depends on how I am thinking at that moment. That's all. My answers are going to depend on that. But in addition, you will attempt a couple of questions. I will evaluate right away. Okay, in the class after 2 hours. This is my approach. This is how I have planned the course. Is it clear or not? Okay. Most important themes for people who are panicking, who have exams, yes or no? And definitely, okay, panic is a normal state. So I don't have to worry about it. Panic, no problem. I am also panicking. Okay, how am I going to teach so much? What I'm going to do, what I do otherwise in 40 lectures, in 10 lectures or 12 lectures, I don't know. I'm panicking. So if you're panicking, no problem. Okay. But with this approach, my point is, okay, the notes I'm going to give you is not for you to read and memorize. And there is nothing to revise. That is only to reiterate, reaffirm your understanding that you have developed as a part of this course. And you will create answers in the exam. That's why we are doing the answer writing practice after the class as a part of our discussion only. If you can write a couple of answers, I will be sure you will be able to write other answers also. Let's see if you will also believe it after a couple of hours. Is it clear or not? Okay. This is broadly how I want to think. In the notes I have given, wherever I've mentioned, okay, I've mentioned few places. Do not memorize. That is only for you to observe. And therefore, when the question appears in the paper, you will be able to think and write. Okay, not remember and write for sure. Few things you have to remember. We'll see what we have to remember. Okay. Any questions so far? Let me come to the first theme so that you understand what I mean. Okay, we'll try to demonstrate what I'm thinking by covering the first theme, which is one of the most important theme in the paper, although it is called salient features of Indian society in your syllabus. But the real theme is really continuity and change as a characteristic feature of Indian society. And we'll see what it means. Please understand, the questions are not, and for that, I'm going to make use of these questions that have been asked in the paper. Questions have never been, what are the salient features of Indian society? Kabhi nahi aayega. Okay. And what are salient features of Indian society is definitely not array family, joint family, caste, tribe, and then write 10 lines about it. Absolutely not. Let's see the questions. Going backwards from 2023, what are the main features of Vedic society? Do you think some features are still prevalent in Indian society? Some core features are there in traditional society. Modern society, some things are continuing. Will they continue the way they were formed? Absolutely not. They'll keep changing. But some elements of it continue to exist. What are those elements? They've asked. Do you think marriage as a sacrament is losing its value in? When I talk about characteristic feature of Indian society, I will talk about some of the core features. And I'll tell you how to think about characteristic of Indian society. Characteristic feature of Indian society is not family, this. No, that is not the way to think. I'll give you a framework to think about it. And within this framework, I'm just fitting this in. That's all. Okay. As a part of our discussion in continuity and change, I'm not going to discuss marriage. I'm going to discuss few things about marriage. But it acts as a base. When we discuss marriage, it acts as the base. This is the base theme of the entire paper. I guarantee this. Paper, society, social justice, both. Even social justice. Social justice you won't be able to answer if you don't understand this theme. And we will see why I'm telling you this. But what is it talking about? An institution that was there, that is there. What was the nature of the institution? What is the nature today? Has it lost its original characteristics or past characteristics? And if it has lost something, or what has changed, what has been continuing, what has been added, and what are the factors that are leading to these changes? And what are the factors that are leading to continuity of certain characteristic of this institution? Are you able to follow this or not? I'm just telling you, this is what will be asked. Does urbanization lead to more segregation and marginalization of poor in Indian metropolis? I will do urbanization as a separate theme, but introduction to urbanization will be given in this theme only. That is why I put it here, although this is only introduction part. But more. Caste, again, the same thing. I will discuss caste elaborately, but the base comes from here. But more direct questions, let us see. This question is a direct question on this. Discuss the impact of post-liberal economy, post-neoliberalism or post-LPG era on ethnic identity and communalism. We are obsessed with thinking about neoliberal reforms, economic reforms, new economic reforms. 25 years also happened. Its impact on economy. But we don't think about society. It's a very deep impact. In fact, this is one of the landmark events that has altered the way, transformed the way our society functions. And different, what is society? We don't know as of now. Okay, this question is really how social identities have responded to the changes introduced by one of the modernizing forces, which is LPG. Many other things are also there, and I will go to it. This question is not different from globalization also. Even in globalization, it will have an impact on social identities, many other things also, but social identities. Which identities are prominent identities? Religious identity, ethnic identity, regional identity, and now in the aftermath of independence, national identity, nothing else. And if you can understand the changes that are taking place, its impact on these identities, you're good to go in this question, any of these questions. I'll show you many more questions similar to this. Let's see. I'll give you are we losing our local identity for global identity? Discuss. It's the same thing. Are you able to understand this or not? This is not different from that question at all. Because here also, when we pick up local identity, we talk about ethnic identity, religious identity, linguistic identity, maybe, I don't know, caste identity. Caste is really not an identity. We'll speak about it. Caste identity is also another dimension. Okay. But these three identities and national identity. National identity, new identity. It's a created identity, post-independence, of course, or at least during the freedom struggle. Same question, different words. Let me take another thing. Even this actually, but okay, I would have put, even this is the same question, but different aspect, we will see. Globalization is generally said to promote cultural homogenization, but due to this, cultural specificities appear to be strengthened. He has given the answer to that question in this another question. The examiner has given you answer here. If you think that identities are losing, you are losing your identity, local identities, absolutely not. Some facet of that identity may be going away. I don't know if it is going away. Certainly, it is not remaining the way it was formed. Regional identity, for example, was formed in Indian society way back in 15th century. By 15th century, regional identities were crystallized in India. 8th century to 15th century. But that identity has been transformed, and day in and day out, they've been interacting with many other forces, and that identity has been changing. And same thing, I'm just looking at it, okay? And what is happening? What is the result? Okay, is it leading to homogenization, globalization, or it is actually you're asserting your identity more? We have to see both of them. Are you able to understand or not? So when I talk about continuity and change in Indian society, I'll tell you, Indian society, my answer is this, and this is what your answer should reflect. Indian society is just a bunch of paradox. This paradoxical nature of social realities is what you have to identify in all these questions. And this is not what I tell in my foundation class. Foundation class, we're just building up brick by brick. Okay, now that I hope and I'm expecting that you're already familiar with the basic terminologies and all of that, okay, which is not required. Nobody is going to ask you to define caste. Nobody is going to ask you to define family. I have seen notes on types of family. Nobody is going to ask you about types of family, types of kinship structure, types of marriages, types of family. इसका कोई फायदा नहीं है. Notes में है तो फेंक देना. Not use, not of any use. Okay, I guarantee this. So let's see the questions. Anyway, this is the paradox. Okay, this is the paradox. To what extent globalization has influenced core of cultural diversity in India? Same question, different words. Some core characteristics are there, forces are there, forces of change is there, and how these characteristics, traditional characteristics, are interacting with these forces is the theme that I'm talking about. Continuity and change is a characteristic feature of Indian society. Same thing is asked. Different words. Okay, and this is again, this is not on identity, not on culture, but on some social categories. Women, old age, elderly population. 2-3 social categories can also be asked. And I'll tell you how to think about it. Are you able to follow this or not? Okay, that's all. It can be anything. I don't know. This year, what they're going to ask, I will not be able to tell you. Nobody will be able to tell you. But certainly I can tell you, regardless of what is asked, you know how to approach these answers. Okay, I just shown you two things, nothing else, but I'll just maybe, I can show you more questions also. Okay, this is about what? This was about social identities. Okay, this was about social identities. But the entire set of questions I put here is only about the characteristic features of Indian society. Let me come back to our theme. Okay, I've just identified one dimension of it through questions. All the questions are related to that, and we will see what it means. Is it clear or not? So far, maybe not clear. We'll see. Okay. At the outset, before even I discuss the topic, I have to tell you that whenever this theme is asked, continuity and change, whenever you're seeing a question which tests your understanding of how these agents of modernization or these forces of modernization, strictly speaking, we should not call it a forces of modernization, because modernization was there for forever in India. It's not just only after British rule or after independence or after globalization or in the recent times after digitization. Although they have accelerated the, okay, what is modernization? Just change, nothing else. And change in a certain direction. Okay, certain direction. We'll see what it is. So when I identify different forces of modernization, it does not, please understand, how Indian societies interacted with these forces is an area that they are going to test. That's what we are discussing. Before I give you framework to discuss about it, the underlying thing, the first thing that should come to your mind, what should you prove in the paper? You should show the paradoxical nature of Indian society. How forces of modernity, elements of core culture, continue to interact in different ways with different intensity at different points of time, giving rise to unique social reality at different times and at different spaces, both. And that is what you have to prove in all of these questions. This is one thing that you should have. Marriage as a sacred institution is changing in Indian society. Question, yes or no? What should you show? The paradox of coexistence. Maybe some elements are existing more, traditional elements are more, or modern elements are more, whatever it is. But it is paradox for sure. What is more, what is less, we will understand. Whether they coexist, whether they're developing conflict, or whether they've been assimilated and bringing new reality. We don't know. That we have to see. But one thing is for sure for you is that you have to show that unique reality of India. That's why it is salient features of Indian society or continuity and change, a characteristic feature. Are you able to follow this or not? This is all you have to prove in all of these questions. Get that. When question was asked, globalization has led to cultural homogenization or assertion of cultural identity. Don't think in black and white. That is the bottom line. It is always in gray. Because please understand this, whenever these forces of modernization is interacting with core features, different core features of Indian society, I'll give you a framework to think about core features. But when they are interacting, they will interact with different intensity at different points of time, at different places. And therefore, making a rainbow of the social fabric of India, very, very dynamic. It's not static. It is dynamic, but also not very. So therefore, it's not just homogenization हो रहा है या cultural assertion हो रहा है, दोनों हो रहा है. कभी ये हो रहा है, कभी ये हो रहा है, कभी ये साथ में हो रहा है. Are you able to? There is homogenization also, but there is assertion also. But this complex mixture is giving rise to some social realities. That is what you will be tested on. And to make sense of all this, little more we have to go. Are you able to follow? But you have to show what? The paradox. That's all. Okay. This will give you an idea what to show and what not to show. When family is asked, you should understand Okay, first of all, there is nothing called joint family, nuclear family in traditional India. Family means, this categorization is wrong. Family meant joint family. Parivar, the word that was used for joint family, that is all. As a structure, it may be changing. The functions may be changing. But the values that guided the family continues to exist. That's why you have, in contemporary times, new phenomena called digital families, subnuclear families, increasing jointness through digital media. Structurally, it is nuclear. Functionally, it is not completely nuclear, but still you can say it is nuclear. And I'll tell you why it is nuclear. But in values, it is still joint. Jointness is continuous. This is nothing but subnuclear family or semi-nuclear family. Both you can use. Okay. But this is what? This is characteristic feature. And this is very different from tier 1 cities to tier 2 cities to tier 3 cities to rural areas. Completely different. Completely different from one state to another state to another state to another state. That also you have to keep in mind. So it is not, please understand, my only point is the take home right now, for now, is the following. Do not think in black and white. It's not this or that. Modernity is not going to replace tradition. Tradition is not going to defeat modernity. Tradition aa gaya, modernity khatam ho gaya. Khatam kuch nahi hota. They interact in complex ways, and how complex we will see, giving rise to unique social realities. And these unique social realities is what you have to highlight in all of these answers. That's all. Okay? Are you able to follow this or not? Okay, I haven't discussed any topic with you, but I have discussed what is the first thought you should get whenever you see a question like this. When cast is both fluid and static, you have to understand, you have to show the paradoxical existence of both. And that manifests in certain social reality that you have to identify and show it to the examiner. You must have read many things already for society. Okay, that I just urge you to fit it in this framework. That is all I'm going to do. I'm not going to bombard you with more topics. No. ये टॉपिक जो भी तुमने पढ़ा है कोई फायदा नहीं है. क्वेश्चन देख लेना, समझ में आ जाएगा. Okay, that is all I would want to show. ठीक? Is it clear or not? Okay. Now, before I come to how we arrive at these paradoxes, these are the paradoxes. Some of the paradoxes I have just mentioned, they keep repeating, same paradox, same theme, sub-themes within this theme keep on repeating. I'll just give you an introduction to it so that you know the relevance of this topic. But after this, I will try to build step by step how to think about them. Okay, please understand this. Okay, see how I'm going to proceed further. I'm going to talk about, so what did I tell you? I have to understand the paradoxes that exist in Indian society. This manifests in the form of some social realities. I'll give you examples. Okay, let me, first of all, do you have the document? Yes or no? Now, can I just, document hai? Two documents I have uploaded. One is the PYQ document. Another is this document. This document is only for you to see and not to remember anything.
Sir, ELEARN पे upload किया है?
हाँ बेटा. This document is uploaded or not? I just want to understand. Can you please tell me? ये किया है? हाँ बेटा ओमकार बताओ.
सर अभी नहीं दिखाई दे रहा है ELEARN पे तो.
नहीं है sir, it's not there.
Okay, just give me a second. Give me a second. I really want you to have this document and not read it. Go back and read it. Memorize कुछ नहीं करना है. ये document notes नहीं है. I mean, it is notes. For me, right now it is notes. But really speaking, I don't want you to treat it as a notes to go back and revise अरे रिवाइज करना है, याद रखना है, कुछ नहीं करना है. देखते हैं. Okay, we'll see what we have to do. Just a second, I'll just call the person and ask him to upload it immediately. हेलो सर, आपने अपलोड किया? वो डॉक्यूमेंट अपलोड कर दीजिए. कहाँ पे? I think it will be uploaded. I maybe it is uploaded, I think, in the folder. Do you have a folder for notes? A separate folder for notes, people? It's there. Can you just open that document? Okay, the other document, continuity and change in Indian society. Okay, ठीक है, चलो आ जाओ. Give me some more videos, people. Otherwise, it will be very difficult. If it was science and tech, I would not have expected. Society में चाहिए. More videos, people. Now it is there बोल रहा है, कोई no बोल रहा है.
So they've uploaded only one PDF.
PDF?
Yes.
चलो
it
WhatsApp
looks-
पे अभी आएगा शायद. अरे PDF नहीं है ये. ओके, चलो चलो, गिव मी सम वीडियोस पीपल. लेट्स नॉट वेस्ट टाइम. मेंस लिखने वाले भी हैं. Is everybody with me so far? Whatever we have discussed so far? Yes or no? Everyone? Yeah. Okay, keep that notes open. I've given list of issues that are there in contemporary times. All of this relate to the same thing, nothing else. They only reflect the paradoxes. Give me more, give me videos, people. ये मैं चालू नहीं करने वाला हूँ. एक दो और आ जाओ. प्रणव भी है. प्रणव आ जाओ बेटा. ठीक है. So fundamentally what it is, we will be only, you will only be showing the paradoxes. This is what the answer is going to be. ठीक है. But how these paradoxes emerge, okay, it's not a list of things that you have to remember and go. Although these points you will remember at the end of the course, at the end of maybe, yeah, definitely the course, but now. Cultural homogenization versus cultural assertiveness. With globalization, increasing globalization, urbanization also, it is said that cultures, when they are coming together, particularly in the aftermath of globalization, it leads to cultural homogenization. It may be cultural homogenization, but also at the same time assertion. When cultures meet, they either develop conflict or they coexist or they have some exchange with each other and they negotiate with each other. This negotiation can be conflict or coexistent or assimilation. Assimilation is mixing up features of both and giving rise to new reality. So much so that the original characteristic is gone. Or it can be accommodation. Accommodation is what? Your characteristic coexist with my characteristic. At the end result of accommodation is what? The distinct feature of both these elements which are interacting are seen. They're distinct, okay? They're distinctly seen. Or there will be resistance. Therefore, there'll be conflict and there'll be resistance. And one wins over the other. The other is gone completely. So is it giving rise to that homogenization? We have to check. Or is it giving rise to assertion? Many contemporary realities we will see, which is showing all these elements, resistance or resilience. Therefore, when cultures show their resistance, they show their resilience, they won't go away. But second, they coexist also, they accommodate and giving rise to new reality, but assimilation also. When we talk about religion, later I will talk about this, and secularism, in fact, is a framework that is designed by modern nation states in order to overcome this rising communalization, or for that matter, also religious identities. Communalization will come later, but when religious identities start to assert themselves, because religious identities have become, or religion is essentially an ideology. Modern day religion is essentially an ideology. It is no more a source of ethics. And we'll talk about all this in the second or third theme. When this happens, when it is an ideology, please understand, different religious identities in the face of this political democracy, that is the framework of nation states, they will start to, okay, you just have trying to invoke different identities. It can be linguistic identity, it can be regional identity, it can be caste identity, that's why identity politics based on caste, or it can be based on religious identities. This is a modern day phenomena. We can't do anything about it. And therefore, they start to assert themselves. The religious identities assert themselves. The whole idea of secularism versus communalism debate, if secularism is seen as a framework to counter the rising communalization, please understand, communalization is a result of secularism. And secularism is trying to counter communalization. We will see that. Okay, or religious fundamentalism. These are the only two things secularism will try to counter. But in this scenario, cultural assertion is also happening. That is why, okay, in this scenario, when with religious identities, assertion of religious identities, what is really happening, I'll talk about it later, is commodification of cultural symbols or religious symbols. I just took an example of religion, but it can be any cultural symbol. Commodification of it, commercialization of it, the underlying erosion of the essence of it. Ritual commodify हो रहा है, उसका underlying essence erode हो चुका है. So whenever cultural assertion is also happening, is it really the essence of that culture that is asserting, or is it only the symbol of culture that is asserting? Or in other words, we say forms of culture, okay, or rather in substantive aspect of culture, it's not asserting erosion of a substantive aspect of culture, but assertion of symbols of culture. Whether this culture or that culture doesn't matter. Are you able to understand or not? This is a paradox that exists in Indian society. The rise of the religious nationalism, okay, is a direct consequence of this cultural assertion in the face of homogenization due to globalization. Not just India, across the world. India is able to negotiate with this paradox, and that is seen as a model for the world. And we will see when we discuss secularism how we are going to resolve this paradox. We'll see that. Many social realities. I'll take more examples and we'll make more sense of it. Okay, this will again be over when we do secularism in communalism, or maybe a little bit of globalization also. Okay, I'll come back to this. Empowerment and fragmentation coexist. There is empowerment also, there is fragmentation also. Subcategorization of SC, subcategorization of OBC, caste census. These are all emerging social realities. These are the issues that you have read in your newspaper, but it is really reflective of what? The paradoxical existence. On one hand, you are using reservation to empower certain groups that were hierarchized, caste groups. Empowerment, no problem. But at the same time, when you're doing that, at the same time, what is happening? You're also creating more fragments, giving rise to new caste dynamics, caste blocks, or caste identity. What was there in 1940s, 1950s, 1930s, or even before that, 19th century, and what is there in 21st century is completely different. The nature of this caste identity has transformed. Why? Because that characteristic feature of caste, one characteristic feature later I will talk about, while you keep hearing about hierarchy as a characteristic feature, division, segmental division. Hierarchy is okay, but division is also a characteristic feature, meaning they have their own existence, a distinct existence. That's why fragmentation. Is that fragmentation going away? Question is asked. Last year question, maybe not last year, before that, one question on caste was asked, where question was on, do you think caste system can be eradicated in India? What is it asking? Nothing but this fragmentation, nothing else. Are these measures of empowerment, okay, removing the fragmented nature of caste in India? What did I tell you? On one hand, with all our affirmative action, or we don't really have affirmative action, we have positive discrimination. With this positive discrimination, we're trying to empower certain social categories. But at the same time, we are also, through subcategorization or caste census and so on and so forth, which is the very tool for empowerment. Please understand, caste census hum kyun kar rahe hain? Empowerment ke liye. But it is also leading to more fragmentation, giving rise to new caste dynamics in India. And that is what you have to reflect in all of these questions. What is the underlying debate? Empowerment or paradox? Empowerment versus fragmentation. Period. Are you able to follow this or not? Is everybody with me on what we are doing? अरे बता दो मेरे को, नहीं तो मैं कुछ और करना पड़ेगा.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Give me some answers, people. अरे समझ में आ रहा है कि नहीं? Can women reservation result into all reservation? On the one hand, empowerment is happening. On the other hand, fragmentation is also happening. Rise of cancel culture. अरे women का ये क्यों है? Okay. Women का rights है तो responsibility duty भी होना चाहिए. ये सब क्या है? Again, you're fragmenting the groups. Anyway, we'll come back to all that maybe, okay, at some point of time. But this is how you think. Modernization versus alienation. The need for going back to one's culture, cultural identity or religious identity, even if it is only symbol. Okay, alienation, many things are there. We will talk about it. Modernization, essentially, in its origin in Europe, essentially 19th century phenomena, okay, it is seen as a result of what is called as enlightenment. You must have studied in your world history. This was actually seen, this modernization was seen as anti-religious. Secularism was anti-religious. Secular matlab anti-religious in its origin. Whether that is the way it is in India, absolutely not. Not just India, nowhere else. So by rejecting to all the traditional forces, are you facing alienation? If you are facing alienation, how you are responding to this modernization? This paradox exists and many debates are there. We'll take up some of them. Okay, I've given a list of debates, contemporary debates in your notes. You can start reading them as I am talking. While there is economic liberalization, there is also social inequality. and which will be the theme in our second part of this QIP course. After 5 to 6 lectures, we'll go to the second part, which is social justice. The whole social justice lies on this backdrop. While economic liberalization, new economic reforms have been favorable for the economic situation of the country, it is completely unfavorable. Not even, okay, there is not even an iota of doubt. This is not even my opinion. For social development, new LPG reforms or new economic reforms or neoliberalism or liberalism in general have not worked. That is why the solution we will always write later, I will tell you, is what? Improve state capacity. This is the solution for all social development questions or development questions, social justice questions. Education, health, drinking water, sanitation, poverty, absolutely inequality, absolutely everything. Okay? While on one hand, economic liberalization is there. For example, we'll just take an example, couple of examples. You see, for example, how this economic liberalization and social inequality is reflected in urban spaces. When I talk about urbanization, little later, I will talk about, and this is what you should understand. When we talk about urbanization, we talk about urbanism. Our topic is really urbanism. Urbanism means this the way of life, urban way of life. You see questions, it is about urbanism or urban way of life, not on demographic study of urbanization. वो नहीं चाहिए हमको. यहाँ पे हम social study of urbanization कर रहे हैं, urban life कर रहे हैं. And when we talk about urbanism, later I will talk about. There are, okay, one characteristic feature of urbanism in India is this emergence of segregated spaces. This is very simple. You understand this. Gated communities भी है, marginalized slums भी है. Formal economy भी है, informal economy तो है ही. Yes or no? These are what? Okay, that's why one characteristic feature of urbanism in India is what? Segregation of spaces and hierarchized segregation. These spaces are hierarchized, one on top of the other. Traditionally, we used to think, and this is how even, okay, now also we think about urbanization. Okay, urbanization सोचने के बाद, when you think about it, we think that these spaces are not these separate spaces. Segregation तो है, but it doesn't mean they are not interacting with each other. That is entangled. There is entangled urbanism, they say. Please understand, a high rise is there, and next to it, there is an emergence of a slum. Why? Because the service class for this high rise is provided by, service class comes from these slums. Yes or no? Because physical labor and upper caste has never gone well with each other from traditional times in India. And that is reflected in this entangled urbanism, where gated communities and slums are interacting with each other, giving rise to unique characteristic in Indian society. समझ में आ रहा है? Nowhere else in the world urbanism takes this form. Only in South Asia, definitely in India, where there is, okay, this gated community or slum entangled है और बगल में ही है. Nowhere else in the world. Are you able to follow this or not? Because physical labor is not a taboo in any other culture, or many more cultures, at least Western cultures I'm talking about. Development of slums and squatters, yes. ठीक है. Are you able to follow this or not? Okay. Now with this, let me come back to this. While economic liberalization has given rise to multiplicity of opportunity for marginalized also, so much so that you have organized this in unorganized sector, domestic work, cab drivers, teacher, UPSC teacher. Okay, UPSC teacher abhi kiya nahi hai, but baki. Okay, domestic workers, I'm giving you example of drivers, cab drivers. They've been organized through these platform economies. You understand about gig economy and platform economy, about which enough you have read in your economy. But what you certainly have not read, I'm trying to tell you, this rise of gig economy is only what? On the one hand, showing the increasing opportunities due to economic liberalization and therefore giving some sort of income security to the gig economy by organizing them, but at the same time, increasing social inequalities. The very issue of the gig workers asserting their rights for protection, social protection, okay, is reflective of this paradox that exists. When I was coming here, I was asking some person, अरे वो कैफे कैसा है? ऑटो फेलो, कैब फेलो? साहब हम दूर से देखे, अंदर हमें क्या पता कैसा है? काम कर सकते हैं कैफे में बैठ के? वो कैसे बताएगा? Meaning what? Segregated spaces. But still interacting. He is the one who dropped me to that space. Are you able to follow this or not? This is reflective of what? Or gig economy is reflective of what? Gig economy is reflective of, is nothing but a reflective of this paradox. More paradox, I will tell you. More complexity, you see, it's not just this simple. Please understand, everything is paradox. That's why I name my course, okay, foundation people will know. I wonder what is India, because I don't know what is India. I'm not telling you definitive terms. What is this social reality? Just to give you one more example, while these platform economies have modernized, organized occupational structures in India, Indian platforms have now innovated. Uber को 60 रुपए देने से अच्छा, जिसमें उसको 20 रुपए जाएगा, उससे अच्छा मैं उसको 5 रुपए रिचार्ज दे दिया, रिचार्ज कल्चर कर दिया. Okay, you see in cosmopolitan cities like Bangalore, okay, there are local players that are emerging in platform economies, removing the structural features of globalization, okay, and trying to resolve and negotiate with unique Indian reality. Namma Yatri is an app that is developed in Bangalore. Increasingly, ride sharing is easier in Namma Yatri or much cheaper Namma Yatri than Uber. Uber khatam ho jayega cosmopolitan. This is showing what? Okay, what is it trying to address? Some social inequality. We keep talking. Platforms have all the... Okay, what is the problem with platform economies? They have all the power. Nammayatri has come, or for that matter, there is also Rapido. All these are what? These are Indian form of platform. Okay, platforms, which is trying to negotiate with the same forces. Social inequality ek jagah badh raha hai. There is also economic liberalization. That is why questions many times are asked. You can also see, okay, globalization has led to swelling of informal economy. It's a very simple question. Okay, number of examples, and yes, it has led to rise of informal economy, but at the same time, it has tried to organize informal economy. ये भी किया है. Formalize नहीं किया, organize किया. Okay, more opportunities are there. That is what this paradox is all about. I'm just telling you some contemporary examples. Many more I have listed in your notes, okay, from your news, of course, but don't worry about those news. Just read it, and that's all. Anything related, you are asked. These are the paradoxes I want you to write about. And we'll talk more detail about these paradoxes. Individualism versus collectivism. Okay. We'll talk about characteristic feature of Indian society, traditional Indian society, in which I will talk about holism. Holism. Holism means what? To look at the whole. Whole is bigger than the sum. Forget the sum of its parts. Parts may exist in karta. We exist as wholes. The interconnectedness between this part in order to live in harmony. This is what is reflected in the idea of Satyam, Shivam, Sundaram. This is a cultural value. What is it giving rise to? It is giving rise to social values of this institution is bigger than the person, individual. Collectivism. This characteristic feature, traditional Indian society. That is why commitment to institutions, commitment to authority of all institutions, family can ho sakta hai, okay, or caste councils ho sakta hai, or any institution that can come, okay, that authority, commitment to authority is there, is a characteristic feature of traditional Indian society. But in the aftermath of modernization, we are increasingly, see, in the aftermath of your liberty, equality, fraternity, that is infused during the freedom struggle. And then, of course, post-independent India, we have the rise of individualism. It is only reinforced by industrialization, later urbanization, now LPG and globalization. And of course, now with digitization, individualism is only reinforced. Does it mean individualism never existed in India? Absolutely not. I'll come to that also. But individualism is a social value today. Take an example. Unit of development in India is what? At one point of time, it was a block. It was household. Household is a unit of development. But individual, increasingly, individual is also a unit of development. Why individual is a unit of development? Women empowerment. We're talking about the collective, but it is not, there's nothing called women. Meaning it's a heterogeneous group. Therefore, your target for development is what? Individual. It is reflected in that. Are you able to follow or not? Okay. Or your rights, violation of your rights is what? Individual right. When you go under Article 32 or 224, you go to the courts as individual. Please understand this. For violation of your rights, for restoration of your rights, individualism. I'm just talking about a couple of things. That's all. How this paradox continues to exist in different social realities in India. I talked about sub-nuclear family or semi-nuclear family. In structure, it may be nuclear. In function, it may be nuclear. I'll tell you why, how to think about structure and function a little later, but I hope you understand what I'm saying. But in values, it is still collective. You often go seek support to extended family members. The members of extended family live in the same city. There's a pattern that exists, particularly in tier 2 cities. Okay. Tier 1 cities, it is very, very different. Tier 2 cities, it's very, very different. Within tier 1 city also, things are different within that space. But tier 2 cities, if you see still the collectivism of extended families. That's why semi-nuclear families will be more prevalent in tier 2 cities than tier 1 cities, although in some spaces in tier 1 cities also, it is true. Okay, my point is the rise of semi-nuclear families is a characteristic, okay, is only reflective of this paradoxical existence of individualism and collectivism. Or for example, you take women. More often than not, when we talk about issues related to women, later I'll pick it up, we see black and white. If woman is committed to her family, we see it as patriarchal family. Absolutely not. Why? Because the idea of collectivism is there as a social value. It's not just women. Any member of the family is committed to the family, committed to the collective, to the group. But at the same time, not at the cost of individual rights. That is what is being asserted. Nothing wrong in removing the domination and discrimination within family, but to tell that you cannot be part of collective. I don't think collective thinking nahi hona chahiye, sirf individual thinking hona chahiye. वो India में कभी नहीं होगा. And that is not even desirable. Are you able to follow or not, everybody? Are yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Are you able to follow or not, people? Are बताओ. Others? Similarly, legal pluralism versus universalism. We will talk about, okay, one characteristic feature of Indian society in tradition continues also till today. Nothing will be replaced. Please understand, some elements of it continues. What we call as particularism. Particularism matlab specific application of rules, norms, values to different groups. Example we take. certain offenses against Brahmin community, I'm talking about according to Manusmriti, is seen with a very severe legal provision, penal provision. Yes or no? Certain offenses of if a Brahmin committed a certain kind of offense, he would be more severely penalized than a Shudra. But if a Shudra is committing certain offense against Brahmin, he will be more severely penalized. Therefore, application of law was different, specific to different groups. This quality is called as particularism. Are you able to follow this or not? Or another example we'll take. The values, the Hindu social values have penetrated different parts of the country and they've interacted with the local forces in different ways. In eastern part of the country, it is different. Western part of the country is different. Southern part of the country is different. Northern part of the country is different. Northwestern part of the country is different. The local traditions and the universal values have interacted. This we call as great tradition and little tradition have interacted differently, giving rise to unique realities. That is why, that is what is adding to what? Diversity of India. Are you able to follow or not? Same idea of holism, same idea of many characteristics we'll talk about. Collectivism, particularism we'll see. Okay. Or respect for authority, strength of the institution. This is applicable everywhere. But the way it manifests in, say, Assam is different than what it is there in Karnataka and so on and so forth. This is not just with respect to social relationship. I'm talking about culture also. That's why Bihu, Pongal, okay. The form is different. Or rather, the form is same. It's festival everywhere. Okay. Why is it celebrated? The solar ingress of, solar ingress in Capricorn. When sun enters Capricorn, the river is flooded. As a result, it will carry fertile soil. And you start celebrating it as a festival. Somewhere it is Makar Sankranti, somewhere it is Bihu, somewhere it is this, somewhere it is Lodi, whatever, doesn't matter. Content is same, form is different. Diversity of India. Are you able to follow this or not? And this is a result of what? Particularism. Please understand, particularism means this same reality of glorifying the God. It's cultural. It has a cultural value. The nature is cultural value. Nature worship. And that is being reflected in different traditions in different ways. Content is same, form is different. That is nothing but what? Particularism. Another example. Okay. It's not only between regions. So therefore, one region, another region, it is different. Diversity is there. But application of law is also different to different communities. Whether it is different communities, whether it is different regions, whether it is different gender, whether it is different caste, whether it is different religion, doesn't matter. And that debate is what is giving rise to reactions against Uniform Civil Code. Uniform Civil Code is what? An attempt to, this is the characteristic feature of Indian society, traditional Indian society. But with the rise of modernization, particularly in the aftermath of colonial rule, what is it? Universalism. All laws are applicable to all individuals equally. Equal protection of law. Rule of law. Equality before law. Sab equal hai. What is this? Reflective of universalism. Yes or no? Are you able to understand or not? This is universalism. I do domestic violence, you do domestic violence, दोनों का कटेगा. Same law के under कटेगा. Yes or no? That's why Domestic Violence Act is called as what? A secular law in India. Secular represents what? Universalism. That is modern feature. But does it mean all that particularism has gone? No. That is why you have what? Legal pluralism in your personal laws. And when you're attempting to universalize, okay, social relationships, particularly your primary relationships in marriage, what is happening? There is increasing resistance. Yes or no? But whether it is desirable or not desirable is a different story. I'll talk about Universal Civil Code under secularism. Okay. It is a topic called secularism, and we will see. Okay, so universal civil code is what? Okay, those of you who may leave, it is only secularization of marriage, nothing else. Nothing else. All that you have read about universal civil code or uniform civil code, pata nahi kya universal hai, uniform hai. Okay, uniform hai. Okay, whether it's uniform or not, we will see what law commission is telling. Okay, what different experts are talking about, all that we will see. But essentially topic is what? Secularization of marriage. My foundation students will know the details, and we will do it, okay, as a part of this course also. Okay, this paradox exists or not, particularly in personal laws. और फॉर दैट मैटर रिलीजियस प्लूरलिज्म वर्सेस कम्युनलिज्म. प्लूरलिज्म भी है और हर आइडेंटिटी, एज आई टोल्ड यू, मॉडर्न डे रिलीजन, later elaborately I will discuss, modern day religion are essentially ideology. As a result, each of their identities are being asserted. Once it is ideology, please understand, in democratic politics, your identity is very important. And what identity? Many identities are there. One is religious identity that is being invoked. Bigger the group, more the share of development you will get. As simple as that. That is why we always focus on group mobilization. Women ho gaya, okay, Dalit ho gaya, tribe ho gaya, wherever you're trying to mobilize. That is what civil society is all about. Nothing else. सबका सिविल सोसाइटी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन बनाना है. फिक्की पिक्की डिक्की ये सारे यही है. Are you able to follow this or not? Okay. So similarly, what? Religious identities are also being invoked. That is communalization. We'll talk about it. But if you make group, so therefore identities are being asserted in the face of modernization. Identities are being asserted, and for this, for formation of this identity, commodification, I told you, is happening. Nothing else, of symbols. YouTube channel में short बना रहा है, अरे ये गाना गा रहा है, उसका मतलब किसी को नहीं पता. This is reflected in what you see. Ram temple consecration, when it happened. Okay, discussions I have seen, serious discussions are okay in the garb of serious discussions. The discussion, economic benefit of Ram. Are bhai, economic benefit of the temple. Why you're talking about economic meaning what? You're commodifying, commercializing religious symbols. Essence of religion, erosion. Okay, erosion of content or assertion of forms. सिंपल फॉर्म एंड कंटेंट. सब्सटेंटिव खत्म हो गया, सिंबल बाहर आ गया. ओके, एंड व्हाट, व्हाई इज इट कमिंग आउट? बिकॉज मॉडर्न डेमोक्रेटिक पॉलिटिक्स, यू कैन डू एनीथिंग अबाउट इट. And therefore, okay, so pluralism is, whether it is good or not, absolutely yes, pluralism, not a religious identity, not just the form, symbol, warning, essence. That's what it meant in India. But now what is it? Communalization. Are you able to follow this or not? There was plurality in ethics in India, religious ethics in India, making Indian society a rich, okay, or a mosaic of cultures or mosaic of religion, multi-religious society. We'll talk about it. Okay. Well, this was multiplicity in ethics, plurality in ethics. That's what secularism is all about. And that versus what? Communalization. Communalization means what? Religion is seen as what? Ideology. Now it is pitted. One ideology is pitted against another ideology. This paradoxical existence exists, and therefore giving rise to many issues that you keep reading in the newspaper. Many times questions are also asked, and I will show you. A number of questions are asked. ठीक है, डायरेक्ट क्वेश्चन कोई नहीं पूछेगा, पूछेगा जरूर ये. ओके, गिव मी लिस्ट ऑफ कम्युनल वायलेंस, कोई को क्यों पूछेगा भाई? Okay, are you able to follow this or not, everybody? This is all it is. Secularism versus religious identity. Okay, same thing I'm talking about. But okay, finally, the debate of constitutional morality versus social morality. Nothing but a paradox. Why? Because traditional features are interacting with forces of modernization in different points of time, in different ways, with different intensity. Whether they adapt, whether they assimilate, whether they coexist, whether they resist, and therefore show resilience, we don't know. That keeps happening, giving rise to this larger debate of constitutional morality versus social morality. that is reflected in many cases, multiple questions, direct questions asked on this debate. Yes or no? Paper 1, paper 4, paper 3, paper 2, paper even essay. इस इन 4 पेपर्स में कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल मोरालिटी वर्सेस सोशल मोरालिटी is asked directly. The issues related: same-sex couples, Supreme Court decision, or rather observation of same-sex couples in news this year, or Sabrimala. 2 examples I'm just taking. These are all social realities, social issues that are coming up, but that is a result of nothing but this complex interplay of these paradoxes. Are you able to follow this or not? Well, social morality, constitutional morality dictates equality between sexes, between orientations, between different individuals. Social morality, it does not allow. At a time when 36 countries, understand this, 36 countries have gone for legalization of same-sex marriages. While we have decriminalized, we are far from legalizing same-sex marriage, because our idea of marriage is guided by our tradition, continues to guide us in modern society. Are you able to follow this or not? Forget about marriage. Okay. And which countries are there? Please understand. Which countries do you think have not accepted same-sex marriages, legality of same-sex marriages? China, India, Iraq, Israel. Why? Because traditional cultures are very strong in these countries. Again, there are differences in these cultures also. China also does not recognize, legalize, but it has decriminalized. India also has decriminalized. Iraq, on the other hand, will never even decriminalize. Saudi, on the other hand, never ever decriminalize bhi nahi karega wo. It is criminal even today. Israel, you see, modernization has happened in Israel differently than all these places. Every place, modernization is different. Israel, you see what has happened? Decriminalized, not legalized. But same-sex couple can adopt, although it's very difficult, but they can. Adoption rights are there in Israel. In India, no adoption rights. In China, no adoption rights. Why? Strong traditional features or core features are very strong in these cultures. Why? They are called as primary cultures or primary civilizations. And I'll talk about what is primary civilization. India is one of them. Are you able to follow this or not? That is why, okay, Supreme Court continues to reflect, which they say, I don't know whatever it means, while we recognize the civic union, whatever that means. Are you saying I am recognizing sexual union? You're not recognizing sexual union. By denying adoption rights, you have also denied recognition of sexual union between same-sex couple in India. It is only not criminal. The difference is the following. Your presence in this class, if it is decriminalized, I'm saying it's not a crime for you to sit in the class, versus recognizing your presence in the class. If you ask a question, I have to address it. It means I have recognized you. Decriminalized, on the other hand, तू है, मैं तुमको मारूंगा नहीं, आएगा तो बस. That is what is the difference. Are you able to follow this or not? That therefore, in same-sex couple, okay, the same-sex marriages, the issue is really about this, okay, nothing else. Okay, so it's not going to be, please understand, I'm not going to list out a list of current affairs. ये सब आ गया, ये सारे इसी में है, simple. Okay, question इसमें आएगा, उस पे नहीं. Are you able to follow or not? Wherever we have to pick up individual issues, we'll pick it up. To make sense of these paradoxes, we have to understand, what do we do? Now, we know it is paradoxical. ये हमारा conclusion है. This is all it is. All examples I've given, you can read and throw it. Don't. Are you able to follow or not? Examples are very easy, not for you to memorize. Okay, this is there in the notes. But to arrive with this paradox, okay, how do you think in a framework, in a structured way, to be able to make sense of these paradoxes, because paradoxes are not, this is not an exhaustive list of all the paradoxes that exist. Many paradoxes are there. Why I have picked up only this randomly? Okay, again giving you a list of things to remember? Absolutely not. How did I arrive at it? Okay, how will you arrive at, okay, this? Please understand, those of you who are leaving, 22 questions have been asked only on this theme. If you think this is elaborate, 22 questions have been asked, and we will demonstrate it after we are done with the framework. You will attempt the questions. Is it clear or not? Okay, I'll take questions if you have. Okay, meanwhile I'll drink some water also. अगर समझ में नहीं आ रहा है तो अभी पूछ लेना. Any questions so far? Those of you who are writing mains.
हेलो
Yeah.
सर, तो जो अभी तक आपने पढ़ा है इसमें ऐसा सच अभी कुछ याद नहीं रखना है ना, जब आप फ्रेमवर्क
कुछ
मतलब
याद, ना कभी कुछ याद नहीं रखना. कुछ फ्रेमवर्क्स देख लेते हैं, मैं बता दूंगा क्या याद रखना है.
ओके,
उसमें भी याद रखने की जरूरत नहीं है. Whole idea is to get you out of that thinking that you have to remember stuff to answer the questions. There is nothing you will remember and reproduce in the exam for sure.
Sir,
Yes, better.
hello.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sir, is legal pluralism is a subset of particularism?
Yeah, absolutely yes.
Okay, sir.
Particularism मतलब क्या है? You apply different rules to different sets of people differently. घर में पूछेगा 8 बजे के बाद भाई जा सकता है, मैं क्यों नहीं जा सकती हूँ? Example of particularism. But particularism is, that's only a trivial example, that's only for you to understand. But real particularism is what? Application, differential application of laws, personal laws. Are you able to follow or not?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Next. ठीक है? To make sense of these paradoxes, which is what you will reflect in your answers, okay? We have to make sense of what? Core features of Indian society, forces of tradition, forces of modernization. Okay, this I can go on forever, forces of modernization, but for simplicity and of course paucity of time, I've just mentioned it. ठीक है, ये सारे forces है. यहां से modernize हुआ, इससे भी modernize, मतलब what is modernization? To change. Forces of modernization was there in Indian society even before colonial rule. They are called as orthogenetic changes. Source of, okay, change in any society can be from within, from without, whether it is society or individual. Yes or no? You can change by yourself also. You can change by looking at somebody else also, or your situation also can change. Yes or no? Orthogenetic change, heterogenetic change. Orthogenetic change matlab from within, change from within. Bhakti movement, example of orthogenetic change. Are you able to follow this or not? Legal reforms, social reforms due to colonial rule, heterogenetic change. Impact of Islam on India, heterogenetic change. Bhakti movement, orthogenetic change. Challenge to caste system is what Bhakti movement tried to do. One aspect of it, many other aspects are also there. But the change, source of that change is what? From within. Are you able to follow this or not? Orthogenetic change, heterogenetic change. I'm not going to go elaborate on this, but this, okay, so what is this modernization means? Modos, matlab to change. Okay, and these are the forces of modernization. In the aftermath of colonial rule, fundamentally different characteristic came to India. And India, okay, Indian traditional features, core features have been interacting with these forces of modernization and giving rise to unique reality or paradoxes that we have just spoken about. and therefore certain issues that arise out of it that continues to exist in social fabric of India even today. ठीक है, इसीलिए I have just taken, please understand, from colonial rule onwards, this it has accelerated this process of change. That is why I have just taken westernization, post-independence modernization, industrialization, urbanization, globalization, and digitization. Question, okay, these are two topics directly in your syllabus, but even this modernization, this is essentially development. It's also a direct topic in your syllabus. Social justice. सोशल जस्टिस का बेस क्या है? डेवलपमेंट, नथिंग एल्स. Are you able to follow this or not? And we will come back to this also. While globalization, urbanization, direct topic in your syllabus, in your first paper, this is also nothing but force of modernization. What I am trying to examine, I will first identify traditional features. I will see how these traditional features are interacting with these forces of modernization. Digitization, of course, I have just added. ठीक है? Are you able to follow or not? Okay. Before I talk about the characteristic features, one way to think, क्या करे ये characteristic का? कैसे, क्या characteristic बोल रहा है? कभी woman बोलेगा, कभी caste बोलेगा, कभी family बोलेगा, कभी social value बोलेगा, collectivism बोलेगा, particularism बोलेगा. Structured way to think. How do you think about characteristic feature of any society? Okay, particularly in India, and therefore whenever some force of change is trying to impact and how to see how the one characteristic is being interacting with these forces of change, I want you to think in a structured way, and this structure I am giving you. Whenever we think about characteristic feature of Indian society, we think like this. There are certain cultural values. Okay, we'll come back to this, but there are certain cultural values. Okay, one way of looking at society, and I keep telling this, is society is only a tool or an instrument to reproduce culture. One way of looking at it, many other ways are also there, but one way of looking at it. Okay, society is nothing but what? Society is nothing but an instrument to reproduce culture. That's all. तुम्हारे कल्चरल वैल्यू जो भी डिफाइन करता है, सोसाइटी और सोशल वैल्यूज और अदर इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स ऑफ सोसाइटी आर ओनली ट्राइंग टू रिप्रोड्यूस देम so that you can sustain your culture. That's all. Question is asked once. What are the characteristic feature of Indian society that makes it sustain its culture from one time to another? Direct question. One question, directly continuity and change is a characteristic feature of Indian society. There are elements of continuity also, there are elements of change also. What makes Indian society so unique in order to balance these elements? Question is asked, direct question. Are you able to follow this or not? Okay. In order to answer these kind of questions, or in order to think about characteristic features, we take this framework. I've just taken this framework. Think about this. Keep this in mind. Okay. And whenever you talk about forces of globalization, jab aaya, cultural homogenization, cultural assertiveness, इस framework में सोचना है. You can take these elements and show its impact on this, this, or this, or this, or this. Doesn't matter. Okay, let's see. Okay, let's see. Let's see. I will list out the characteristics, but before that, I just want you to think about this. Cultural values impact social values. I told you, holism is a cultural value. Take an example. Okay, next slide, I am going to list out some cultural values. Holism से क्या आएगा? Social values आएगा. Holism is what? Holism is the ability to, or rather, the characteristic of interconnectedness, to see the wholeness of things in the universe. And that is reflected in the maxim, or the popular maxim, Satyam Shivam Sundaram. Every religion of the world, particularly Indian religion, Hindu religion, has a place for creator, creation, and man. Whether it is Islam, whether it is Christianity, or whether it is Hinduism. Creator, creation, and man. And this interrelationship between creator, creation, and man is such that the relation should be such that they should have a harmonious existence, whether it is 10 commandments, whether it is Bhagavad Gita, whether it is Quran, whether it is this book, that book, doesn't matter. Moral precepts given by any religion is to create a harmonious relationship between creator, creation, and man. That is what is reflected in the idea of Satyam, Shivam, Sundaram, which sees man as a part of the whole, creation as a part of the whole, creator as the whole. All this interrelationship, and therefore, and that idea, this is what a religious idea. That's why religion I have put here. Okay? In all primary civilizations are what? Primary and secondary civilization. Primary civilization is what? Primary civilization which is originated. And we have what? It is also called as orthogenetic. Why orthogenetic? Because the genesis of that civilization is in the same culture that we are living even today. So it is what? A primary civilization, Hindu civilization, or for that matter, Christians, your Chinese civilization, or for that matter, even Persian Gulf. Primary civilization, examples. Bronze Age, you keep talking about it in your history. Ye sab pata hai tumko. In all these primary civilizations, the characteristics, the culture is defined by religion. Are you able to understand or not? One question I keep asking, whether religion is part of culture or culture part of religion. Today, religion is part of culture. But go back before about 500 BC. Culture is part of religion. Everything revolved around religion. And all primary civilizations, this is the characteristic feature. Forget about it. If you don't understand it, no problem. After 5:30, we can talk. Religion defines cultural values. Like holism, I told you, is what? Holism is coming from what? Religious value of Satyam, Shivam, Sundaram. That holism is giving rise to certain social values. So we are able to see the interconnectedness of things that is reflected in social value. That is why our commitment to the community, collectivism. Are you able to understand? What are the social values coming out of holism? होलिज्म से क्या क्या आ रहा है? You see, collectivism. Commitment to the collective, communitarian. Individual is not important, collective is important. And therefore, our social values are guided by these values, nothing else. In addition to this, respect for authority. Why this respect for authority is there, or institutions? Okay, and later I will talk about how you think about social structure, particularly social institutions. All this is what? Commitment to institution. It's hard for us to think beyond that institution. Institution is very, very important. Why? Why? What gives resilience to caste as a social institution? Family as a social institution. This idea of what? Commitment to the community, commitment to the group, commitment to the collective, that directly flows from holism, nothing else. Are you able to follow this or not? Okay. Cultural value gives rise to social values. When social values, these social values are reflected in what? Naturally, social realities. Social reality. Social values are nothing but that they're manifested. ये values क्या है? ये manifested in social structure, social identities, social relationship. To make it simple, I have given this structure, nothing else. Is this exhaustive? You can keep adding social institution, social this, social that, जो भी कर सकता है. But this is one way of thinking about it, and exhaustive list. So the idea of holism is manifesting in the form of collectivism, respect for authority, the authority of institution, and so on and so forth as a social value. In social structure, whenever we talk about social structure, we talk about two types of structures: microstructure, macrostructure. Microstructure means structures in which primary relationships are more important. Primary relationship मतलब day to day relationship. खाना साथ में खाया. Sexual gratification. Are you able to follow? Not. Okay. These are, what is it? More frequent. Primary relationship, emotional space. This one. Caste, in fact, is considered to be a microstructure in India. We'll talk about it. But joint family, okay, rural village is also a microstructure we talk about. Okay, we'll see. But joint family, you can easily relate. And you can also think about macrostructure. Macrostructure मतलब politics, economics. तो जब भी तुम कोई भी वैल्यू सोचेगा, you talk about a modernization force, you think about its impact on microstructure, macrostructure, clear. Social structures. I'll talk about social structure also later, but this is what it is. Okay, this is a whole team in itself. Caste, I will talk about it. Okay, and these social values are also reflected in, and this social value of collectivism is reflected in joint family or not. Are you able to follow this or not? Why authority of the head of the family? Even today, I'll talk about caste also. While love marriages are prevalent in India, 8%, 10%, and it is increasing now. 8 to 10% are love marriages in India, according to data. And it is increasing. No problem. It is replacing. No problem. Replacing, I don't know. But which kind of love marriage? Caste associations now. Okay. Why? Because this will not go away. Please understand this. The authority of institution will not go away. That is traditional feature, core feature. And how it is manifesting? New functions caste associations have taken up in their contemporary times of organizing marriage melas. Caste melas hota hai na, marriage. It is only for alliances, marriage alliances. This is new form that caste associations have taken. One question was there. What are the new associative forms that caste has taken in contemporary India? Direct question. One form is this. Caste associations have completely transformed. पहले कुछ और function करते थे, अभी कुछ और function कर रहे हैं. One function is what? This. So love marriage is okay within caste love marriage. सब caste. जब caste की बात करते हैं, we don't talk about, okay, these are small, one big group. Caste is not one big group. Within that also division is there. Yes or no? That is what we call as subcaste, subcaste, subcaste. Iyer, Iyengar, ye, wo, Smarta, ye, jo bhi hai. Earlier, what was there? Subcaste. Endogamy was there. Marrying within this subcaste. Small group mein hi marriage. Now, caste endogamy. Whether it is family, whether it is caste, they're reinforcing what? This institution. Are you able to, the authority of the institution? That is why that is continuing to exist. Love marriage is there, but kahan pe love marriage? Parents' consent. Why? Respect for authority in the family. Characteristic feature of Indian society, traditional Indian society. Are you able to follow or not? Respect for authority is there. अरे पापा से बोल के प्यार करेंगे, ठीक है, भाग के शादी नहीं करेंगे. Are you able to follow or not? हाँ, प्यार से शादी कर. Why? Because individual aspiration is also important. Individualism. Okay, you're also used to individualism. RAU'S, liberty, equality, fraternity, article 19, article 21, article. ये पढ़ रहे हो तुम. 14. But at the same time, core features are also continuing. How they are interacting, giving rise to new realities, very complex realities. ठीक है, समझ में आया? Okay, more about this anyway. When we elaborate, we understand, but I'm just giving you flavor of it. Political structure, economic structure. Earlier, these institutions I'm talking about, whenever we talk about social structure, I'll talk about social structure in a bit. Compare old and new. And this interaction between old and new, giving rise to unique reality, is the theme of, is the essence of this theme, nothing else. Social structure ho gaya. We'll see more about this. Okay, this as a separate topic we'll do. Social identities. Okay, which identity you carry, you to understand. Linguistic identity, ethnic identity, caste identity, regional identity, religious identity, new identity, which is national identity. In identities का कैसे change हो रहा है? That is all we have to see as a result of modernization, nothing else. Are you able to follow this or not? This is the base. Question was what? How local identity is influenced by global identity. Force of modernization Old cultural value was there. Globalization is introducing new values, and how these two values have interacted with each other, you see. Okay, when old value and new value, I'll talk about this. Okay, another framework I will take you through in a bit. Old value, new value, they negotiate. What can happen? इससे अच्छा कुछ इससे अलग कुछ नहीं हो सकता. They develop conflict, they coexist, or there is selective adaptation. कुछ चीजें ले लिया, कुछ चीजें छोड़ दिया. Are you able to follow or not? Like this lecture, some things you will take, some things you will leave. Are you able to follow this or not? अरे समझ में आ रहा है कि नहीं?
Yes, sir.
That manifests into these. That manifests in what? Social structures also, social identities also, social relationship also. Very simple. So whenever you are asked a question of this interaction or any of these paradoxes, you have a structure to analyze and write on the spot. समझ में आ रहा है? Usually question is asked on individual thing. अरे भाई सिर्फ आइडेंटिटीज पूछ रहा है, सिर्फ कास्ट के बारे में पूछ रहा है, सिर्फ ये पूछ रहा है. You can write individually also, you can write as a whole also, doesn't matter. One question was there on social values. When social value is asked, you have to write about all this, 2 points. Examples कैसे सोचना है तुमको पता है already. This is how you can think, but you already know many things you have already read. Are you able to follow this or not? Social identities. Similarly, social relationships, many social relationships we can take. I'm just taking gender because direct topic in the syllabus also, questions are also on this social relationship, not on any other. A younger and older generation also you can talk about. There is clash of values we keep talking about. Impact of liberalization, impact of modernization, impact of globalization, urbanization. We talk about clash of values between older generation, younger generation. 1 point, standard point you will keep writing. Okay, that is maybe another dimension you can add. Otherwise, I am taking only gender relationship. When urbanization happens, what happens to family we understand, but also what happens to gender relations we understand. Urbanization has opened up spaces for women to work. Gender relations are being affected. Sare isme hai. You don't have to remember. Are you able to follow this or not? This is what I mean by don't memorize. This is what you should memorize if you want to. Are yes or no? Are समझ में आ रहा है कि नहीं? Tell me this.
Yes, sir.
This is the structure I want to introduce. ठीक है. Next. Let's take up the. Now we understand what is it. Please understand this. All questions you will talk about, all these 22 questions will be about paradoxes. To identify paradoxes, I have to understand the traditional features, core features, how they are interacting with modernization, forces of modernization. When we think about core features, I think about core features in a certain structure. This core feature is coming from where? Please understand this. Cultural value, okay, is reflected in social values. Social values are nothing but they're manifested in what? Social structures, social identities, and social relationships, period. This is how I can think. I've taken the example of holism, and we will see how holism is giving rise. Holism is what? A cultural value that is giving rise to social values, collectivism, community living, respect for authority, institution, respect for institution or institutions, the way of, okay, the totalizing nature of institutions. I'll tell you what it means, but as of now, importance of institution. Institution is very important for India. Core feature. That is why it gives resilience to caste structure, caste as an institution, or for that matter, joint family as an institution. So ये जो institution बहुत strong है. That's why joint family will take different forms. Structurally, it may look different, but jointness will never go. That is what we talk about. Why? Because of this. Are you able to follow this or not? Are you able to follow this or not? Okay. Or for that matter, you take gender relations. Because of urbanization, what is happening? Because of urbanization, what is happening? Opportunities for work for women is high. When opportunities of work is there, you will have what? An income, dual income households we talk about. Yes or no? This is what you have read in many material. Dual income household, no problem. But dual income household does not mean empowerment. Why? That is also, but while the force of urbanization of giving equality of opportunities, it is given, no problem. More opportunities in occupational structure. It is fundamentally transformed occupational structures, but at the same time, it is giving rise to also what is called as double burden. Yes or no? Double burden of work, domestic sphere and private sphere. This you have read? Yes or no? Everybody has read about double burden. Yes or no? This double burden is coming because of what? Because women's commitment to the collective, which is the family, that is coming out of directly the cultural value of holism. Are you able to understand or not? What makes Indian society sustain its culture? Because what? This cultural value is rooted in religion. Religion, culture, itna deeply entrenched. That's why it is deeply entrenched. It has got the force of the culture, force of religion. That is why it is deeply entrenched in religion. One of the questions in past year papers. अगर तुमको ये नहीं समझ आ रहा है, क्वेश्चन पूछ लेना, क्वेश्चन देख लेना. What makes Indian society unique in sustaining its social values? These values are deeply entrenched in social structures, but it has the force of culture, it has the force of religion, stamp of religion. Satyam Shivam Sundaram ho sakta hai, okay, your Varnashram Dharma ho sakta hai, many other things. Are you able to follow this or not? Okay. Similarly, the second characteristic, unitism. Unitism is what? Okay, Indian civilization is considered to be spiritual materialism. Okay, a spiritual civilization where the resources, because we are in the tropics, the resources are in ample resources are there. Needs are limited. Why? Because we are in tropics, so therefore moderate climate, unlike the temperate or the poles. Are you able to follow? Okay, in such a situation, ample resources are there, needs are limited. So क्या करोगे? This leisure, intellectual class will develop, spiritual class will develop, religion will develop, law will develop, because there is so much surplus in the society. Are you able to follow this or not? Are you able to follow this or not? Therefore, Indian civilization, okay, there was a tendency, geography defines culture, you keep talking about. Therefore, there is a tendency for India to become spiritual, and that's why, okay, spiritualism. And in this state, spiritual state, the unitism is coming out. What is unitism? The ability to see sameness in differences. Okay, this is what is reflected. Please understand. Ekam sat vipra bahuda vadanti. Yes or no? Have you heard or not? Are yes or no? Truth is one. Wise men look at it differently. Ekam sat vipra bahuda vadanti. Sarva dharma samabhav. Are you able to follow or not? Tolerance, plurality, all this is existent because of what? Please understand this. This is okay. This is because of our ability to see sameness in differences. Are they same? Absolutely not. Are they similar? Absolutely not. Your truth is different than my truth, but the essence of my truth and the essence of your truth is same. This is what is in essence called unitism. Why it is there? Why this plurality is there? Please understand this. Okay, are they same? No. Are they similar? Absolutely not. But your religion and my religion are as true as each other. If I think your religion is different, or your ethics is different than my ethics, definitely it is different. This is what Sarva Dharma Samabhav is of Gandhi. Okay, later I'll come back, invoke it in secularism again. Okay, Sarva Dharma Samabhav means what? Please understand this. It is like what? Different streams of river. One is in young stage, one is in old stage, one is in mature stage or middle stage. While, okay, old stage river, young stage river, and middle stage river different. One is in the mountains, one is, okay, one is sweet water, one is fertile soil. But finally, when they reach the ocean, they all have to go to the same ocean. Are you able to understand or not? This means what? Your truth is different, my truth is different, but the essence of my truth is same. That is coming directly out of what? This culture of spirituality, which is essentially able to see unity in differences. Whether it is, please understand this, Bhagavad Gita is an reflection of unitism. I'll tell you why. Okay, or for that matter, we also talk about many more examples. Bhagavad Gita is there, or Buddha's anitya. Everything is impermanent. Meaning what? Truth is, essence of truth is this. You can use different words. Bhagavad Gita, why I gave you example? It has a place for Gnana Marga, it has a place for Bhakti Marga, it also has a place for Karma Marga. Yes or no? All these three. This is what? Ability to see different paths. अरे कोई भक्ति कर रहा है, कभी कोई ध्यान कर रहा है, कोई ज्ञान कर रहा है, कोई कर्म कर रहा है. Work is worship. That is also has a place. That also has a place. Why? Because ability to see differences in unity amidst differences. That is why when cultures come to India, it's very easy to see, at least in ethical part or religion part, why religious pluralism, why multiculturalism, multi-religious society is there, because of unitism. Are you able to follow this or not? This is what is giving rise to what is called as syncretic nature of Indian civilization. Syncretic nature is what? When cultures come, they give something to each other, take something from each other, stay in India, give rise to new reality, enrich that reality, enrich its own nature. Islam comes to India, gives something to India, takes something from India, lives in India, enriches itself, enriches India. This syncretic union of Hindu and Muslim culture is giving rise to Hindustani culture. That is nothing but what? Syncretic example of syncretic nature of Indian civilization. Are you able to understand or not? Everybody talks about multiculturalism as a characteristic feature of Indian society. Yes or no? Everybody has heard of multiculturalism as a characteristic feature. This is what you have read in notes. But what kind of multiculturalism? Syncretic nature of multiculturalism. And what do you mean by syncretic? Syncretic ka matlab ye hai. Please understand this. When cultures meet, they exchange something. Okay, you've heard of salad bowl, you've heard of melting pot. Yes or no? Are yes or no? Salad bowl, melting pot. Salad bowl means what? As the name suggests, it is like salad. Different cultures come, they stay segregated, but on the same plate. There is no culture which is giving you, okay, this in reality, please understand, this is only concept. In reality, no culture exists like this. Old European society may be like this. Melting pot. Cultures come, exchange so much. You don't know in the melting pot what is the difference between tomato, aloo, okay, beans, nothing. Melt ho chuka hai. Indian civilization is not like that. What is it? Sambar, which is sambar, vegetable sambar. You have heard or not? You have read, eaten or not? What is it? Okay, vegetables come, take the flavor of sambar, give its flavor to sambar, and giving, okay, but maintain its distinctness. Enriching the taste of vegetable, but enriching the taste of the curry. All of this. This is the best analogy for syncretic civilization. Example for syncretic civilization is what? Hindustani culture. Elements of Hindu, elements of Islam, giving rise to new culture, new language, Urdu. It is reflected in what? New language, new religion, Sikhism. Oneness of God is taken from Islam. Karma, theory of karma is taken from Hinduism, giving rise to unique religion, Sikhism. Example of syncretic nature of Indian civilization. And that is coming because of what? Because of the characteristic of unitism. Are you able to follow this or not? Are yes or no?
Yes, sir.
And this is reflected again. Okay, so these are what? All culture I'm talking about. Okay, now how it is reflected in social values. What kind of social values come? Because I'm able to see unity amidst differences. This unity in diversity you keep talking about. You have to write all this. Unitism, syncretism has to be written. In Indian society, what does it? Okay, in social values, what it comes out as? Please understand: unity in diversity, multiculturalism, multi-religious society, multilinguistic society, all this. और social values. Social values मतलब क्या है? In my social relationship, what are the values that are guiding me? Tolerance and love for all. Tolerance के अंदर ही love आता है, बाद में बताऊंगा. But plurality. Okay, these two are what? Coming directly out of unitism. These are social values. Tolerance and this. समझ में आया? Question is asked. Plurality and tolerance are characteristic feature of Indian form of secularism. Discuss. Or do you agree? This is a question. Okay. You can keep giving examples. Keep giving examples. So therefore, again, this will continue to reflect in the face of modernization. Please understand this. One question was asked. Okay. I keep telling, Indian society is the best place for globalization, where cultures come, cultures meet, exchange with each other, retain their own distinct feature, but in addition to that, give rise to a new emergent, richer culture, making itself richer, making that union richer. तो इंडिया में नेचुरल कैरेक्टरिस्टिक है ग्लोबलाइज करने का, तो लोकल आइडेंटिटी कुछ नहीं होने वाला है. सेम थिंग. Are you able to understand or not? Why? Because the ability, your faculty of assimilation, you keep reading about assimilation, accommodation. Why assimilation, accommodation is there? Because of the characteristic of cultural value of unitism. Are you able to follow this or not? Are you yes or no? Any doubt so far? अगर डाउट है तो पूछो. समझ में आ रहा है कि नहीं? अरे सब बोलो. दिव्यांशी.
Yes, sir.
एक ही बोल रहा है. आलोक बोल रहा है. Vipin, Abhyuday, Ankur, new people especially who have not attended my classes, okay, before, okay. Please understand, it might look elaborate. Please understand, 22 questions from this theme. Okay, if you think, okay, we would have अरे ये topic, ये topic, ये topic, ये topic, कोई फायदा नहीं, सारे topic same है. 22 questions from one theme. Okay, tell me.
सर,
हाँ बेटा.
सर जैसे ये अभी अपन ने यूनिटिज्म में अलग अलग पॉइंट्स निकाले, जैसे कि यूनिटी इन डाइवर्सिटी हो गया,
हाँ.
ये सब बोला, तो
हाँ.
ये भी मतलब ये तो ओवरऑल याद ही रखना पड़ेगा ना विद द पीरियड ऑफ टाइम.
अरे याद क्या है, ये तो प्रूव हो गया ना. मैं प्रूव कर रहा हूँ ना तुम्हारे सामने, तुम भी कर लेना, सोच लेना.
अच्छा, बस मतलब वो वैसे ही कर देना. ठीक ठीक.
मतलब ब्लाइंडली याद नहीं करना है ना.
हाँ हाँ ठीक.
कुछ लॉजिक है ना. समझ में आ रहा है? अरे यस और नो? Am I able to make sense or not? याद रखना है कि नहीं रखना है, बताओ तुम अभी. अरे बोलो. Do you have to remember? Just tell me this. I don't know. Indian civilization. Next thing. Okay. Indian civilization is called what? The civilization of purity pollution. Purity pollution is there in what? Cultural value. As a cultural value. And cultural value is always backed by religion in primary civilizations. Understand this. Okay. That is why the structure. Meaning what? अरे नहीं तो legitimation कैसे मिलेगा? Social value, if I tell hierarchy is there, will you legitimize? Okay, where you're getting legitimacy from? Will you accept it forever? मैं दबाता रहूंगा तुमको. जैसे मैं करता हूं क्लास में। ओके, बच्चा क्वेश्चन पूछ रहा है, उसको ही दबा दिया। ओके, हायरार्की इज देयर। विल यू कीप listening to me forever? No, there should be some legitimacy. It can be given by law, it can be given by religion. That is why these cultural values are strong and continue to reproduce themselves in different forms. So Indian civilization is called what? The civilization of purity pollution, which is reflected. Please understand what is the social value coming out of it. Okay, with purity pollution is reflected in daily practices. Yes or no? In occupation structure, in groups of people, everywhere. Daily practice, morning, evening, Sunday, Monday को नहीं खाना है, non-veg नहीं खाना है, okay, Friday को non-veg नहीं खाना है, ये सब trivial example नहीं लिखना है. It's only for you to understand. Okay, please understand, these are not the example you should write. Okay, same thing with family also, family or other institutions also, trivial नहीं लिखना है. Okay, so in daily rituals also you have time. अरे से 8 o'clock से पहले, 9 o'clock के बाद, Monday को non-veg, Sunday को non-veg, Tuesday को non-veg, whatever, doesn't matter. Okay, नाखून नहीं काटना है, बाल नहीं काटना, जो भी है. Not only that, occupational structure, pure work, impure work. Why I told you? Okay, high rises and slums. Why they coexist? Unique feature. You just Google and tell. You Google or you now Chat GPT. Unique feature of Indian urban areas, urbanism. Why? Because manual work is considered to be impure. Physical labor is considered to be impure. That's why it is the domain of the lower caste. Are you able to follow this or not? It continues to reproduce in ways we can see, in ways we cannot see. And the role of this course is to unsee all this. Please understand this. Okay, we'll see. Okay, this is reflected in what? So therefore it is not, so purity pollution सिर्फ caste का नहीं relate करना है, सब कुछ हर चीज में है. After birth woman is impure, just after birth, after death something is impure. Okay, menstruation is impure, all this is there. Purity, impurity. Social relationships, social values. Okay, we'll talk about social relationship later, but social values में कहाँ reflect हो रहा है? Hierarchy, yes or no? Hierarchy is there or not? Are you able to follow this or not? Okay. While unity, holism gives you interdependence, यहाँ पे hierarchy. Are you able to follow this or not? So therefore, hierarchy is there. Okay, caste structure, hierarchy. But it is also seen as interdependent structure. Why? Because your social role, you have given so much authority to it. Why? Because it is in accordance with holism. Take any characteristic feature of Indian society, I guarantee that you can fit in this framework. Okay, I guarantee there is no social reality that will escape this framework. That is the significance of this. Nevertheless, hierarchy. Okay, this is what I'm trying to tell you. Spiritual materialism. Okay, cyclic theory of karma. Okay, this is again cyclic theory of life. Sab kuch kismat hai. Okay, this is again what? A cultural value. How it is reflected. Please understand. What goes around, okay, comes around. Yes or no? What you do, so what you sow, so you reap. Are you able to follow this or not? Okay, the idea of karma continues to influence our lives. How is it translated into social value? Okay, individual responsibility. Individualism नहीं है, मगर individual responsibility है. You are responsible for your own actions. Are you able to follow this or not? Or for that matter, your commitment to dharma is coming from here. Dharma is what? Dharma is a list of, dharma is, there are two connotations to dharma. One as a moral duty, as a duty, and moral precept. Okay, we'll see about precept also. But moral duty, you have a duty towards, commitment to duty. Where is it coming from? Holism. Holism. Yes or no? But at the same time, please understand, this commitment to dharma, why your social values, your commitment to social values is there because of what? Because what you sow, so you reap. That value is also there in your culture. That is why individual responsibility or ethical conduct is coming out of what? Theory of karma. Strong sense of social value. Strong sense of social value. Matlab, my social roles are very, very important. Okay, we talk about any society when we talk about how roles are organized. Another way of looking at society. Varnashrama Dharma is an example of how social roles are organized. Is this clear? Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra is what? Role arrangement or role organization. Is it clear? Any social structure is doing what? Role arrangement or role organization. Defining the roles clearly. Commitment to that role is coming out of what? Because of this. Why? Because what you sow, so you reap. That is why a strong sense of ethical conduct, okay, or social morality is coming out of what? This. In the debates of social morality versus constitutional morality. Why social morality? Please understand this. अरे कल्चरल सिंबल असर्ट होगा, फिर भी तुम्हारा कमिटमेंट है. कल्चरल सिंबल तुमको एसेंस ही नहीं पता. I don't know the essence of some ritual, some tradition, some custom. Still, my support is there. Why? Because my strong sense of commitment to social values, social roles, all this is coming out of what? Theory of cyclic theory of life or theory of karma. Are you able to follow this or not? Okay. See if you can think about what I told you. Spiritual materialism and all. Okay, we'll talk about religious innovation in a bit. This is not essentially a cultural value, but I'll just tell you, okay, why this culture keeps on reproducing. Because it has a strong backing of the religion, which is innovating itself from one point of time to another point of time to another point of time to fit in the forces of change. And I will talk a little bit about this. I'll give you one small structure to think about it. How religion spread, how religion multiply, how religion reproduce from one point of time to another point of time. Not only time, across space also. Okay, we'll talk about this in a bit. But, okay, spiritual materialism. Spiritual materialism means what? Okay, we are neither spiritual only nor material only. But, okay, we identify the integration of the two. We see spiritual in material. That is why, okay, your ritualization, when you're doing rituals, materialization of rituals is happening. Ritualization of spiritual is happening. Both are happening. Lakshmi Puja. Are you able to follow this or not? Okay. Or for that matter, in contemporary times, when you commercialize festivals, Diwali, Holi, Sare, why what makes Indian society accommodate this kind of practice, commercialization or for that matter, commodification of festivals? This spiritual materialism. Spiritual materialism, integration of spiritual and material. Many examples I can give, but theek hai, abhi ke liye. These are the most important characteristics I want to talk about. But I want you to focus on how, okay, you are not, I don't know where you will mention, maybe somewhere you will mention, but you will not write wrong answers. That is the goal of this course. तो गलत नहीं लिखेगा, guarantee है. Maybe you may not write many points. Points also you will write, but this is how it is. To make little more simpler, what I have done, the same thing I've written in your notes also, but you just go through it. Don't remember it. This is only for you to think about it. So that you can generate these points by yourself. This will make sense. See, if I tell community as a unit of society, does it make sense or not? Do you have to remember? Purity and pollution reflected in both religious and social sphere. I have just given you division and hierarchy, caste, social segregation of caste in village, urban areas, segregated spatial hierarchy in modern urban life because of purity and pollution. Make sense or not? Make sense or not? Yes or no? Customs and tradition, private and public sphere. Okay. So disability, earlier debates in India was what? Temple entry. Okay. Who can be the priest? Yes, are debates of secularism tha. Okay. Used to disable certain groups, So for empowerment, we again come back and invoke these kind of things. Even dignity of labor, I've just put it here. Okay, you see cyclic theory of right, acceptance of social roles and status. Blind acceptance is there. Why? Because of this. Interdependence. Are you able to follow this or not? Because of this and because of this. Put together, interdependence. Emphasis on personal responsibility. Strong sense of moral and ethical responsibility. Rina, charity as what? Okay, dana or what? As an obligation, social obligation. Is coming out of what? What you see, or what you sow, so you reap. Are you able to follow this or not? Okay, giving back to society nahi hai idhar. That is Western concept of charity. 2012 essay was asked. Okay, that is Western concept of charity. Giving back का कुछ नहीं है बाबू. तुमने लिया, तुमने दिया, बस. Giving back नहीं. तुम नहीं दोगे तो तुम्हारा कटेगा कर्मा. Simple. Are you able to follow this or not? Okay, all this can be reflected. Okay, this is only for you to appreciate. Trivial example. Spiritual materialism. Okay, ritualized consumption. देखो. Okay. Meaning what? अरे you're doing पूजा, but उसमें उसके सामने इतना बड़ा खाना रख दिया. अरे इतना खाना थोड़ी खाएगा भाई. ओके, भगवान बोलेगा खाने से फर्क नहीं पड़ेगा. तू इतना खाना लेकर 10 वैरायटी, 50 वैरायटीज, 60 वैरायटीज. Why? Because it's not spiritual, neither materialism. Spiritual materialism. Are you able to follow or not? Okay. This is characteristic feature. Strictly speaking, this is not cultural value. Characteristic feature है. ये सारे लेके you see social values here. I've just given. Please understand this. Nobody is going to ask you in the exam to list out social values. I've given you this elaborate list only for you to. Okay. Or this is modern. Okay. Or let me see old. Yeah. Traditional values, have I listed it out? Okay, I think I've taken out the slide because I didn't want to bombard you with so many values. Are list है 15-20 और तुम उसको रटोगे. नहीं रटना है. Okay, this you read it. Okay, but understand these are social values. Our social values means what? What guides your relationships? These values. That is what is manifested in all social structures, social identities, social relationship, period. Okay, patriarchy or whatever, doesn't matter, gender relations. Take this and pick up the values that are relevant. You're good to go. समझ में आ रहा है कि नहीं? Yes or no? Okay, so let's continue with this quickly. ठीक है? When old social value, new social value, this part, okay, new social value come, they negotiate. In their contact, what can happen? They can coexist, they can develop a conflict, or what happens in Indian society is selective adaptation. This is one keyword you should remember. Selective adaptation hamesha hota hai. When cultures meet, selective adaptation is what you have to write in globalization. Wo cultural homogenization, cultural assertion, remember, selective adaptation is the theme you have to mention. Anyway, we'll come back to globalization. We'll understand that it will be affected across all. So what are the modern values? I've just listed them down. Okay, please understand tradition and modern. Of course, I've just seen what is contrastingly different from traditional. No problem. But please understand, this will not replace the traditional. This will interact with the traditional. Always selective adaptation will happen. That is what will give rise to some paradox. And that should be what is reflected in your answer. That's all. जो paradoxes मैंने discuss किया, we'll come back to the same paradoxes. But why that paradox exists? Because traditional values we have understood. Okay, so social values, cultural values नहीं. Cultural values को याद नहीं रखोगे फिर भी चलेगा. Okay, but holism, if you remember, you can derive many things. That's what in the entire paper. I can show you only with continuity and change. One of the years, I don't know which year, all questions can be answered. Sare 6-7 questions, everything can be answered with one theme. Some year, I don't know. Okay, this will definitely be not reflected कॉमनली, आई गारंटी दिस। ठीक है, कॉमनली तुम रोट लर्निंग 1 2 3 4 पॉइंट्स लिख रहा है, सब कुछ गलत है, बता रहा हूं मैं। Okay, I'm not, okay, please understand, I'm not putting anybody down, I'm only telling, okay, that makes no sense. Questions are not like that. Okay, so don't remember this, but okay, just understand it. You never know what you will use where. Universalism, okay, वहां particularism था, यहाँ पे universalism है. Hierarchy is there, particularism is also there. Purity pollution, hierarchy, particularism. Social value, particularism versus universalism. Universal application of law. We have already seen the paradox. Personal laws versus UCC. ठीक है. Individualism, or for that matter even positive discrimination, is what? Particularism versus universalism का conflict. On one hand, you want what? Horizontal equity. Equity is the goal. Very good. But at the same time, who is going to right the past wrongs? Positive discrimination, which means vertical equity. It's okay. Vertical equity and horizontal equity. Two things are there. Horizontal equity मतलब आज के डेट में इक्वालिटी चाहिए, मतलब रिमूवल ऑफ सिविल डिसेबिलिटीज. आर्टिकल 17 अबॉलिशन ऑफ अनटचेबिलिटी, इक्वल पार्टिसिपेशन, ये सारे क्या है? दिस इज हॉरिजॉन्टल इक्विटी. वर्टिकल इक्विटी इज व्हाट? to right the past wrongs. Vertical equity. Why vertical equity is necessary? Therefore positive discrimination is for what? To address the vertical inequities. Direct question in paper 3 was asked last year. You can see same dimension. ठीक है? Why paper 3? Social development, economic social development paper का नाम. Are you able to follow this or not? Take an example. You have done care economy in economy. Yes or no? I'm sure. अभी QIP में किया है कि नहीं? Care economy. अरे yes or no?
किया है सर.
What about care economy? Tell me. So there is an argument that we have to monetize, institutionalize care economy. Yes or no? That's what you have done, and then you have written points to support care economy. Care economy cannot come before addressing gender inequality. Period. Care. This is Ritu. Okay, Ritu Sadhwa. One person is there who has written an entire book on care economy. Please understand this. By institutionalizing care economy, what are you doing? Before institutionalizing care economy, what you should do? Abhi kya hai? We have gender role differentiation. Later on, women we will talk about. Gender role differentiation is there. Care work is the sphere of women today, okay, even today in India, whether it is in public sphere or definitely in private sphere. Yes or no? Gender role differentiation is there or not? Are you able to follow this or not? Okay. So if gender role differentiation is there, for care work, it is women. And now you're monetizing it, incentivizing it. And therefore it is seen as women empowerment. Women empowerment ye nahi hai, babu. Because you are institutionalizing gender role differentiation by monetizing care economy and incentivizing care economy. It may have a 10% impact on GDP. I agree to that. But that is only an economic solution. Real social solution is what? First empowerment, first equality, then care economy. जब gender role differentiation हटेगा in occupational structure, then care economy can be monetized or institutionalized. Okay, this is my opinion. Now you can reflect upon the same topic you have done. Why I'm talking about this? Because economic and social development paper 3. That's why horizontal vertical inequity is asked in paper 3 also. समझ में आया? Okay, so don't worry. This will also garnish some of your conclusion in your answers. Many places I can tell you. Yes or no? Are yes or this is what you have discussed in paper in economy? Yes or no? यही किया है?
Yes, sir.
आलोक बोल रहा है कुछ और. अरे yes or no? This is one of the criticisms or not? Care economy में किया है कि नहीं? अरे बोलो.
Yes, sir.
ठीक है. Okay. Anyway, coming back to our this thing, universalism versus particularism. So therefore, what am I trying to tell you? Even now, positive discrimination is what? Is guided by our idea of particularism. But this is positive discrimination. It is continuing or not? This negotiation between universalism and particularism is what is reflected in positive discrimination, nothing else. Or take any socio-economic indicators, poverty, land ownership, education, okay, anything in education, enrollment भी हो सकता है, okay, learning outcomes हो सकता है, okay, mean years of schooling हो सकता है, doesn't matter, life expectancy हो सकता है, there is a pattern that you can see. And that pattern is seen because of what? SC, ST, ये ऐसा वाला pattern दिखेगा. Why? Okay, second part we will do, but that is there because of what? Particularism. At the same time, positive discrimination is also because of this. Universal status I want to achieve of equality, but I am applying particularistic principle necessary because that is how you address vertical inequity. Think about it. Individualism versus collectivism. What will happen always? Old social value, new social value, develop conflict. They coexist, they sometimes mix, and but also selective adaptation. In private, in economic sphere, please understand how these values will interact. In economic sphere, political sphere, modern values will come. In cultural sphere, private sphere, traditional values will continue. See what I mean by this. Urbanization. Okay, later I will tell you. Urbanization primarily means people are coming together for some economic activity. That is the primary goal of urbanization. That's why I define urbanization as agglomeration economy fundamentally. Nothing else but fundamentally urbanization means agglomeration economy. उसके बाद उसका सोशल कैरेक्टरिस्टिक कल्चर, नया कल्चर आएगा, नया सोशल कैरेक्टरिस्टिक आएगा, नया कैरेक्टरिस्टिक आएगा, whatever it is, values आएगा, सब कुछ आएगा. But fundamentally, why they come together? Economic opportunity, period. That is why agglomeration economies. This is how one defines urbanization. ठीक है ना? Okay, later I will tell you about urbanization. So what is happening? What am I trying to tell you? See this. So as a result of urbanization, क्या होगा? Structure में, family में nuclear household होगा. You can't do anything about it. Okay, so therefore family as a structure will change, no problem. Okay, but universalism or collectivism of the family is not going in the private sphere. Structurally your individual aspirations are respected, no problem, but your commitment to that group called family continues to exist. Are you able to follow this or not? To simply speaking, okay, for you to think, okay, start as a starting point in your thought process, when modern social value, traditional social value interact in economic and political sphere, definitely, okay, there is no strict separation, but to start with, economic and social political sphere is where these values will start to play a role to start with. Eventually they will be reflected in cultural values also. They will influence cultural values, but cultural values क्या होगा? हमेशा tradition का resilient रहेगा, strong रहेगा. They will keep reasserting themselves. This is the thinking I want you to take home today. समझ में आया? Okay, egalitarianism versus hierarchy. Are you able to follow this or not? Easy to understand. Rationalism versus tradition. Okay, customs, rationalism. Linear progress. वहां पे cyclic theory of life. This is linear progress. पैसा आया, बीवी आई, IAS बना, फिर बना, फिर बना, फिर बना, linear. आज का मजे ले, कल भी मजे ले, परसों भी मजे ले. Okay, because you are guided by theory of karma. लास्ट में समझ में आया ये सब कुछ बेकार है, भगवान के पास जाना है. Cyclic theory of life. Linear progress versus, okay, anyway, this is, you can ignore many of them also. Secular materialism, spiritual materialism versus secular materialism. Are you able to follow this or not? Okay. Religion is not guiding our materialism. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Okay. Consumerism. Later we'll talk about consumerism. That is, consumerism is an example of secular materialism. What is guiding your material acquisition of material? Not your spirituality. Earlier, spirituality. Now, consumerism. Market principle. Yes, Hare. Again, all this is what? In economic sphere. Later, it will impact cultural sphere, material sphere. Starts with material sphere. Later, it will impact also cultural sphere, private sphere, all this. Okay? In other words, you can also think in another way, modernization forces will come in secondary relationships first, primary relationships later. The way I interact with you will be guided by modern principles of rationality, professionalism, ye, wo, sab. Are you able to follow? When I talk by my mother, ye sare khatam ho gaya. कोई egalitarianism नहीं, कोई individualism नहीं, कोई universalism नहीं, कोई meritocracy नहीं. मैं पसंद है या भाई पसंद है, पता, hierarchy, I want. Are you able to follow this or not? Primary relationships, tradition will continue to have influence, stronger influence. That will also change, but stronger influence. Okay. Empowerment, fragmentation, both. Okay. Yes or no? Fragment. Empowerment is coming out of what? Particularism. Fragmentation is because of separate application, okay, of this. We'll talk about this. Fragmentation बात करते हैं और okay, meritocracy, cultural homogenization, cultural diffusion. Why cultural diffusion is direct result of urbanization. That is what I have just organized here. Just see it. What I would urge you to do, we will end today's class. What I would urge you to do is go through the entire notes that I've given you, not to remember anything, but to develop a thinking and then look at the questions and just attempt randomly 2 questions, 3 questions. Doesn't matter. If you're able to write 2 to 3 questions, you will be able to write what is asked in the exam. Okay. I really want, my goal is in this course, want to remove this idea from your head that you will remember and reproduce. Therefore, in the last few days that is remaining, coolly, calm जाना है, जो सोच आएगा लिखेंगे, बस. कोई रिवीजन फिजन कुछ नहीं होता, छोड़ो. ओके. कोई रिवीजन फिजन कुछ नहीं होता, पॉइंट थोड़ी लिखना है. क्वेश्चन देखो, कोई पॉइंट नहीं है. Are you able to follow this or not? Okay, at least society. I don't know about other subjects, but at least society. Is it clear? Other things you revise, you have enough material to revise. But here, I want to remove, okay, that obsession with material. That material is given to you only for you to revise and attempt some question. Okay, that's all. Any doubts, I will take or we'll continue tomorrow. ठीक है, कल से आंसर भी लिखेंगे. But okay, this is tomorrow. I think we'll be able to finish this and becomes very easy to complete other topics with this backdrop. Any question on the approach, on concepts that we have discussed, okay, or anything else? Are you able to follow or not? अरे समझ में आ रहा है कि नहीं? चलो, anyway, you can reach out to me. ठीक है, this is my number. If you have any doubts, and those of you, please understand it could be a very different approach than what you have done before. Okay, don't panic. Approach is only different. Same material that you already read can be reorganized in this framework. That is all. Don't panic. Okay? Or people who don't not liking it, don't worry. What you have read is correct. It is better than my framework. Continue to read it. Don't attend class. Simple. अगर तुमको डर लग रहा है तो ठीक है. But those of you who think, okay, we can develop the framework from now, very easy. Please attend the class. ठीक है. You can reach out to me for any answers you have written, okay, for anything that you have written or any doubt you have with respect to what we have discussed. ठीक है, चलो कल मिलते हैं फिर.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, beta. Thank you.